right, so well, that's easy enough. Sounds good. So it says, for number one, it's a 50 milliliter beaker, has a mass of 42.503 grams. And it says make the following conversions, and it's got the mass in kilograms. So I don't actually need that 50 milliliters. They're just telling me what size beaker. So it's a beaker about this, about that tall. All right. Well, about like that. Okay. So a little bit bigger than a shot glass. So 42.503 grams, and they want us to go to kilograms. So we're going to start there. Nice and big so we can see what's going on. All right, so first step, identify what system they're in. This is metric. This is metric. All right, so metric to metric, there's a max of 2 steps. Okay, this is the base unit to the prefix, or I could have gone a prefix to the base unit. Okay, so that's one step. The worst case scenario is I'm doing one prefix to another prefix. And so if I'm having to do that, we're going to do that as 2 steps where we go to the base unit. But we're already at the base unit. So where do I find this information? Well, I'm going to come over here and I'm going to find the K. And so the K is right here, kilo, and it's 10 to the third. And so when I come write this down, I'm going to write 1 kg. And I'm going to replace this K with 10 to the third G. The 1 is still even there. We just don't normally write it. The G just got carried over. This 10 to the third came from that K. I'm substituting in for it. This is a direct substitution method. Once it clicks, you'll never have a problem with it. Always keep in mind the exponent goes opposite the prefix. Exponent goes opposite the prefix. This exponent will opposite the prefix. All right, so now I'm ready to do my setup. Now this is the setup. All this was to get started. Great work to show, but this is stuff right here that I'll be grading. This is the stuff I'm looking for in lab 2. That's where the points are. So it's 9 points. Something like 7 are in the setup. Okay. So here's my setup. I'm gonna start with what I was given. 42.503 grams. And I'll multiply this. And what helps a lot of people is if you remember that this is over 1. All right. And so I want grams on the bottom so that they'll cancel out. And so I'm going to use this relationship. Grams on the bottom. That means kilograms will be on the top, which is good. That means I'll have kilograms left on the top. Always keep in mind what they're asking for. So grams go away. I'll get kilograms. Now the rest of this, that's the hard part. Once I've done that, that's the hard part. Here we go. I'm going to put the 10 to the third, and it says it goes with the grams. And I can double check it real quick. 10 to the third needs to be opposite that K, and it's a 1 up here. So this says I'm going to take 42.503 and divide it by 10 to the third. Now if I'm typing this in, I'm going to get this E to the third. And you do that by hitting second, and it's the button EE. And it's above the, I don't have a calculator handy there behind me. It's above the 7. It's the button above the 7. All right. Remember, don't do 10E. That 10 is built into the E. All right. So second, EE, then the 3. All right. So I do this, and I'm going to get 1, 2, 3. I'll get 0.042503. And then you have to show your units. Now we should also worry about sig figs. Now, one of the keys to sig figs that we haven't really talked about in class a lot yet is this idea of exact numbers. And the problem with exact numbers, an exact number is something that was measured or defined. And so it has no uncertainty. So when I come over here and I look at my list of these conversion factors, now these are all exact numbers, okay? They're by definition. And I look over here, though, it's hard to tell which ones are exact numbers. All right, so this 1 kilometer equals 0.62, 1 inch equals 2.54, 1 meter. So you can't even tell by the number of decimal places. That 2.54 is actually exact. The other two have been rounded off. But how am I supposed to know that, right? Okay, so here's what I do when I grade these. I'm going to base it off of what we started with. Or if we're in lab and we did some measurements, then those measurements aren't exact. And so you'll base it off of anything that you measured. So for instance, we do density, mass over volume. You'll measure the mass, you'll measure the volume. But if we're doing just a conversion, then I'm going to let you treat all these things as exact down here. This is what you're based off. So we started with 5 sig figs. I need to end with 5 sig figs. And I ended up with grams. Okay. So that's how we do that. Now, I tend to run out of space and have trouble writing things. So these fractions, I start to curve them over. I start running. I've ended upside down on lined paper. How do you do that? All right, so what a fellow student showed me to do, I said, make this into a table. 42.503 grams. And then you come down here and you put your grams, you put your kilograms, and you get 10 to the third and a 1. And if this means the same thing as up here. And then I just say equals, I've got my answer. So what am I doing with this? Well, this up and down line, this vertical line, that is telling me multiply. That's my multiplication sign. And this line over here that's doing my horizontal line, all right, that's telling me to divide. All right. Now, you want to be careful when you're doing these. If there's any math on the bottom at all, then you have to put it in parentheses. So this 1 times 10 to the third, I left off the 1. I just kind of did that in my head. That's fine. And just did 10 to the third. But if I typed it in as divided by 1 times 10 to the third, the calculator would have very likely gotten confused, especially if I had that multiplication sign. So any kind of math, you need parentheses. Any kind of math on the bottom. On the top, it doesn't matter. All right. Well, man. Okay, that was a lot. Let's slow down and do another one then. So 42.503 grams is where they're starting us at. 42.503 grams. And this time they asked us to go to pounds. All right. So in this one, I can see that grams is metric. Pounds is English. So the first thing I want to do is try and find. So I'm going to come over to my list here. I'm going to try and find a conversion factor that has. Now, if I can find one that has pounds and grams, that'd be great. And I think your book has one. And I think you can find one on the internet. That's great. I would practice using these because these are the ones you're going to have on the test. All right. So here's one that says 1 kilogram equals 2.205 pounds. I'm going to go ahead and write that down. 1 kilogram equals 2.205 pounds. And I'm just writing it down exactly as I found it. All right. So exactly as we find it over here. And then I've got the problem then of I'm in grams. I need to get to kilograms. But we did that before. Kilograms is metric. Grams is metric. We come over here. And I'm going to write down 1 kilogram. So we switch over so you can see what I'm writing. 1 kilogram equals 10 to the third grams, just like we did a while ago. So now I've got 2 steps. I've got the step that, so I'm going to label this. This is A, and this is relationship B. All right. Start with what I was given, 42.503. And I'm at an angle because I'm sitting on this wacky bench. So I'm going to go ahead and make a table. All right. Now I need grams down here. So they'll cancel out. This one, so this is B. B has grams, and it has kilograms up top. And then that means A will be over here, and I can take kilograms. I can either put kilograms up top or put them down on the bottom. I'd like to put them on the bottom so that they'll cancel those kilograms out. That means pounds will be on the top. And that's really all I'm doing is if I've written these down, right, then at this point, all I'm worried about is making the units cancel out. Don't overthink these problems. It's okay if they feel easy. Matter of fact, these setups, the way that the guy wrote this lab, he loved fishing. All right, this guy that wrote this lab Man, that's what he's doing probably. Oh man, it's almost 11. He's not fishing right now, but I probably spent the whole day out fishing. All right. This guy wanted you out of here. And so these tend to be very kind of repetitive. But that's not a problem. It's good practice. You just have to get over the fact that you're going to write some of these steps multiple times. So this 10 to the third, you just did that part. And then over here, you're going to have the 1 went with the kilograms and 2.205 went with the pounds. Shouldn't have to stop and think about it again. I'm going to look at it up here. Okay. So this tells me I take the 42.05, multiply it by 2.205, and divide it by 10 to the third. Or you could read it as divide by this, multiply by that. Just make sure you're careful that this is not in parentheses down on the bottom. I like to multiply all the way across the top and multiply all the way across the bottom and do my division. Or actually, when I write it, I divide, and if there's anything out here, I put parentheses. All right, so I do all the stuff up top, divide by parentheses, all the stuff on the bottom, multiply. Some people will do divide each step, that's fine, but I don't want you writing times 1 divided by this, times that divided by 1. Don't do extra. Don't make it harder on yourself. All right. So this is not much harder than the previous problem. Matter of fact, our answer will be 2.205 times whatever that previous problem is. And so you're going to say, Dr. J, can I just take the previous answer and multiply it by 2.205? Well, that's how it's kind of written, but I don't want you doing that. I'm going to grade this setup. So this is what I need to see. Now, if you already had it in your calculator and you typed in times 2.205, I don't care. I'm not going to know. This is what I'm grading. All right. So I want to see the setup. I want to see the answer with the units. All right. So these units will be pounds. When we do these, I know that they're repetitive, but we want to write them all out, because when we do this on the test, I will not walk you through one step at a time like this. All right. So when it does the next one, it says go to tons. It's actually quite repetitive. All right. Now that's one we need a special one. 2,000 pounds equals 1 ton. If you've never dealt with elephants or cars, you might not know that one. So I give that one to you. I think I had them included in the procedure. All right. So here we go. We're going to do, this is metric. This is English. So we still had a crossover. Our only good crossover was 1 kilogram equals 2.205 pounds. And then we had 1 kilogram equals 10 to the third grams. We do this in 3 steps. I'm going to go ahead and set up my units, the 42.503 grams. Main thing is I care about, I'm going to go grams to kilograms, kilograms to pounds. We're just adding a step here, and pounds to tons. Very repetitive, but easy. But you got to write all this, come in, stick all the numbers back in. All right. Do your work, get the units. Okay. Now, when I read the next one, it said go grams to DG. And this is a classic example of something that the original author of this lab tries to pull on you all the time. Try to throw you a curveball. We add steps, we add steps, we add steps. Don't go to tons to try to go to DG. This is metric. This is metric. All right, so 1 DG equals 10 to the minus 1G. Be careful, there's a DG and there's a DAG. All right, so when I come over here, DAG is 10 to the 1 and D is 10 to the minus 1. So that's one step. Knock it out, no problem.